All right.
Welcome, train attendants, passengers, and weird phrase repeating aliens, to the 307th episode of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 5th of June 2019 and featuring Midnight, written by Russell T. Davies and starring David Tennant as the Doctor, with a quick appearance by Catherine Tate as Donna Noble. I am Bill Sylvie, the Man in Black, and we were so focused on technical things I didn't come up with a clever quip for myself. With me are Randy Ronson McCulloch,
Good evening, if I wish.
Mad Matt Winchell,
Why is nothing working?
and Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Now remember, we're turtles, not honor guard.
So, anybody who is watching this on something other than an audio-only device may notice that we're a little less visual than normal due to some technical difficulties that we hope but cannot guarantee will be resolved because they are completely out of our hands.
OBS has betrayed us.
Betrayal.
Shame.
We've spent like an hour trying to get it working.
At least a half hour.
Restarted every freaking app on his computer,
Mm-hmm.
and
Just
nothing.
turned it off and turned it back on again.
That's
And
what a
since,
restart is.
and since OBS doesn't have technical support that goes right away,
It could be upwards of a week or upwards of a month before we see an update that will get the web browser back.
I suppose the one thing left is probably uninstalling and reinstalling it, but we definitely would not have been podcasting tonight if you tried that. So
No,
true.
no, we're not trying that. We're going to just move on with what we got, and everything else is working fine. So it's,
Yep.
I don't know what it is.
So it's been an interesting week for me. Been to see my doctor a couple of times. Stamina's a little higher today, I noticed. And this is shortly after they've put me on a anti-inflammatory nasal spray because they think part of the reason I have this huge racking cough is because of allergies.
Allergies
So-
attack people in different ways. So
Well, part of it's the heart failure. I mean, that's part
that's
of what
part
happens.
of it too. Yeah.
The thing is, it's being exacerbated by allergies. So I'll go on these huge coughing jags. I mean, huge, to the point that I almost start choking. So I start gagging. So they're like, yeah, that's an issue. We're going to try this. And thus far, it's working. I'm
At least
feeling
it's
good.
something.
I'm walking around better.
Mm-hmm.
Signs my heart might be recovering.
Yeah, too.
Today, I had some Taco Bell.
Oh my.
is that a condolences or a congratulations?
It's one of the few fast foods I can eat and still not exceed my sodium levels.
Yeah, because they have chicken options for everything.
I suppose that
no,
means you
that's
can't get
not-
the extra
that's-
cheese and everything.
That's not the case, Matt.
Mm.
Anything you get in a flour tortilla at Taco Bell is automatically over 1,000 sodium. They salt the
suppose
hell
that's true.
out of those tortillas. The only thing I can eat, and I'm not sure why, but I've checked it with multiple nutrition sources, is hard shell or Doritos Locos tacos and Taco Supremes. Because each of those is only about 300 milligrams of sodium.
That's a head scratcher, ain't it?
Oh, yeah. So today, because
Who
I
knew
didn't
that
have
the
breakfast,
Doritos options at Taco Bell is the healthy option?
well, healthy's debatable. It's, I want fast food. It's the only fast food I can eat. And since the only thing I'm supposed to be watching is my sodium and my saturated fats, I'm pretty sure it's pretty high in saturated fat, but it also has lettuce and tomato and, So I could eat 3 of those. 2 of them if it's on a single meal. Normally, if I'm going to a place like Taco Bell, I'm not having breakfast, so I can go a little higher in my sodium.
I have been meaning to try Taco Bell breakfast ever since it came out, and I've never been wanted it enough to make the trek, the 3/4 of a mile trek to Taco Bell while they're serving breakfast.
I can tell you this: they have some interesting options. Basically the waffle taco they have is a mess.
I got that. I think that's one of the reasons I saw something about that, and I was like, that doesn't look like it'll be very fun to eat.
The breakfast crunch wrap's not bad, but honest to God, they make the greatest breakfast burritos out of any fast food place.
Hmm.
I mean, McDonald's breakfast burritos blows them out of the water,
Ah,
and they're cheap. They're on their dollar menu.
Yeah, well, most of their stuff is pretty low to
So
begin with on its own,
I
but
can
yeah.
get 2 sausage grilled breakfast burritos. This is of course before the sodium. An orange juice and a hash brown for under $5, and that's a breakfast. And if I ordered it from McDonald's, it'd be about $7 and not as good.
Hmm.
So yeah, if you know what to order, they're pretty good. Just some of their other stuff, and I tried them because I wanted to try the various things. When I was testing them out, are kind of a bit what the helly.
Happens when you're trying to mix non-authentic Mexican with breakfast.
Yeah, but the breakfast burrito did it perfectly. I mean, it's become a staple of the American diet.
yeah.
In certain places, yep.
And now Taco Bell is now if you want a good breakfast burrito, go to people who know how to fucking make burritos. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've said enough of that at the moment.
Yep. Ramble
That
aside.
was our ramble aside. On tonight's show, we've got news and birthdays. A little bit of news, not too bad. A bit of geek talk, because actually, wait a minute. We don't have Thomas, so we've got one piece of geek talk.
Oh, that's right, because he's not showing up, at least not yet.
And then, of course, our episode review, our final thoughts, and our ratings. So let's get started with the news, since we are like an hour behind schedule. All right, so birthdays.
Mm-hmm.
The first birthday, actually, I looked at the end of May. We had 2 days left after our last podcast, and neither of them had any birthdays worthwhile. However, the 1st of June has the birthday of Jonathan Pryce, who you might remember as being the master in the Curse of Fatal Death parody episode.
Mm-hmm.
The one that was Uber Camp and had Dalek bumps.
Yes, the Dalek bumps.
And he turned 72. Next is the birthday, and this one was debatable. I included it anyway, of John Colshaw, professional imitator.
And Big Finish actor of many parts.
Yes, he's been doing a lot of Big Finish roles, most recently Chameleon, but he's best known for his impersonation of Tom Baker. He turned 51. Next is Penelope Wilton, Harriet Jones, former Prime Minister. Come on, anybody?
No.
I thought somebody else was going to do it this time, so I didn't.
Yes, ma'am, we know who you are. There.
Yes. I'm just sitting here to dead air. I can't do it because I'm the one that said the line.
I'm sorry, I'm just here going.
Anyway, she turned 73. And finally, on the 4th of June is the birthday of Julie Gardner, the executive producer from 2005 to 2009, and being known as the lady who called up Russell T Davies and said, I want to bring Doctor Who back.
Mm-hmm.
And presumably the person who every once in a while is like, Russell, a little too camp there.
Well, you've seen the Ballad of Russell and Judy on YouTube, haven't you?
I'm not sure.
It was sung by David Tennant and Catherine Tate, and with
I would have remembered that then. I definitely haven't.
Nope.
with interjections by John Barrowman, and it's basically it's innuendo like all over the place, which is interesting, of course, because Russell was
No.
gay. and it's basically to the tune of "Let's Do It." It's hysterical. I'll link it to you guys after the podcast.
Okay.
Anyway, that's our birthdays for this week. Happy birthday to Jonathan, John, Penelope, and Julie for once birthdays that are everybody who is alive.
All right. Moving on to our lost stories. It is with deepest regrets that an Unearthly Podcast announces the death of sci-fi acting legend Paul Darrow. Paul is best known for his role as, correct me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, Care Avon
Perfect.
on Terry Nation's dystopian sci-fi series Blake's 7. Darrow was born in Surrey. After his normal education, he went to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, RADA. He first performed professionally with the Old Vic in Bristol. In the 1960s, he moved to television in the series The Odd Man, and later had a regular part on Emergency Ward 10. It was while in this role he met the woman who would eventually become his wife, Janet Leigh Price. Following that, he appeared in such roles as Coronation Street, The Newcomers, The Flaxton Boys, Murder Must Advertise, Within These Walls, and The Legend of Robin Hood, where he set the tone for the portrayal of Sheriff of Nottingham. He first appeared in...
that would later be picked up by oh god, my brain just died.
Disney?
Not Disney.
He's talking about Prince of Thieves.
Yeah. Alan Rickman.
Rickman, yeah, that's it. The same
Would do
theme
it
for Rickman,
in
yeah.
kind of the same vein, only a little more comedic.
Gotcha. He first appeared in Doctor Who in 1970 as an officer in unit in Doctor Who and the Silurians. It was a few
only
years...
episode, by the way, that actually is titled Doctor Who and the...
Yep. Which is a confirmed mistake. It was a few years later he was cast as Care Avon on Blake 7. Originally a snide anti-hero questionably on the side of Blake, he soon evolved into a main character, and when Gareth Thomas, who played Blake, left the show, he became the lead and lasted until the end of the series. So they didn't rename it Cares 7?
No,
Nope.
because they were always looking for Blake.
They were still
the
Blake
plot of it
7.
was
They
that
were looking to get Blake
vanished.
back.
There was this huge battle on a base, and everybody got separated, and the group got together. Blake wasn't with them, so they just kept looking for Blake for 2 years.
He returned to Doctor Who a few years later, playing Malin Tecker, not sure if I pronounced it right, in the episode Time Lash. In more recent time, he's had long-term roles in Emmerdale and Law & Order UK. In 2014, complications from an aortic aneurysm cost him both his legs. Paul Darrow died on the 3rd of June following a short illness at the age of 78.
Almost a good run, not quite.
Yeah, I kind of blame the studios he was probably in at the time.
There's no really interesting episode news other than they're filming in Cardiff.
Filming in Cardiff. Filming in Cardiff.
Of course
We've heard
they're
this.
filming in Cardiff. That's their main place to film.
Good filming, though. Yes, we're aware. Stop.
Okay, I forgot to assign these. So, Tim, the next one's yours.
Okay, the Faceless Ones?
Yep.
Right. The BBC has announced the next lost serial to get the animated touch. The Faceless Ones is the 8th serial in the 4th season, and the final serial featuring Ben and Polly, played by Michael Craze and Anique Wills. It is a 6-episode serial, of which 3 episodes are missing, and 1 is highly damaged. The animated release is scheduled for a 2020 release on DVD, Blu-ray, and Steelbook. All 6 episodes will be remade in animation, unlike The Invasion or 10th Planet, where it was a mix. More details as they become available.
Yeah, they've just announced this, so they haven't really given us like what's going to be on the DVD. But yeah, so this is we're waiting for the Macro Terror coming out this year. So it looks like the Faceless Ones is next year.
If only they could do one of the ones that was on our list before we get to it, but
They're doing
quickly.
the Macro Terror.
Oh, wait, are they doing it in full?
Yep.
Okay.
And
before we get to it?
Do it.
Okay.
Because let's see, the Macro Terror is let's see, 25th of September. I had to double check because we've had a couple of delays. This due to, well, me nearly dying.
Well, there was partially that and partially everyone was not available for a week.
And so because of that, 25th of September. The Macro Terror is due out no, it is going to come out after us. Damn it. By 2 weeks.
Son of a bitch.
I almost want to email BBC Worldwide and ask for an advanced copy.
If we get an advanced copy for review by, like, say, 3 weeks.
Because we are due 25th of September. It's due out the 8th of October.
Ugh.
Wah, wah.
Well, there'll be another one that gets updates later.
I'm seriously considering looking up my old BBC Worldwide connections from GeekCon and saying, hey, we're part of a podcast that reviews Doctor Who episodes and serials. We're due to review the Macra Terror on the 25th of September. Is there any way you could send us an advanced copy of the new animation so we could review it from that as opposed to telesnaps? And see what they say. Because if they
it would
did,
be nice to have an in, but we'd have to see. I almost expect a no answer. Oh well. I guess on to the next thing.
It means that we are going to have to go through 8 episodes of nothing but telesnaps.
Get ready to want to punch yourselves.
All right.
BBC novels.
So, in the world of BBC novels, we've gotten news that Gareth Roberts, a writer of several Virgin Doctor Who novels, as well as episodes during the Russell T. and Stephen Moffat era, has been dropped as a writer for them and dropped from an upcoming Doctor Who anthology. This is due to several tweets he made a couple years ago in what he referred to as cheerful vulgarity, mocking transgender people using a trans-negative slur. In a blog post about the dismissal, he rejected the notion of gender identity as separate from anatomical sex. Susie Day, another co-author of the anthology, tweeted that she was one of, or perhaps the authors to object to her work appearing alongside Roberts. So, this is the man who brought us The Lodger, Stormageddon, Dark Lord of All. And he's basically apparently just made some comments that are not flying.
Yeah, I wish I could say I was surprised, but after there's a reason I unfollowed him from Twitter. So,
I would also say that people need to calm down. He's been removed from the project. There's no reason to go out attacking him because people have apparently been attacking the wrong person with the same name now.
Yeah, remember, Gareth Roberts is the Welsh equivalent of John Smith.
Yeah, people need to calm down.
Yeah, there's like a billion of them. So, you attack the first person you see called Gareth Roberts, you might be getting the wrong person.
And you look like a complete dull smeghead.
Yeah, I'm not going to encourage harassment campaigns, but if you feel that you must, at the very least, check the profile of who you're tweeting at.
Otherwise, you're just a goit, so.
Start by goit.
Hey, you said smeghead, I have to say goit.
Holly, you're
I haven't even watched Red Dwarf recently. Now I'm going to have to sit down after Aaron gets home and just watch like 3 or 4 episodes of Red Dwarf before I go
I
to
have
bed.
the first 3 seasons on DVD now.
I can get all of it on BritBox.
I found out that Preplayed in Madison has almost all of the seasons, and you can get them there for like $10 a season. So I'm like, oh, I know where I'm coming back to.
And since we're once again temporarily housing GeekCon's video library, that means I have all of it right now.
Right.
Temporarily,
Am I next?
sadly.
Yeah.
Blue.
You
right.
close out with Big Finish.
Okay. As usual, our Big Finish is Big Finish because they always have a big amount of news.
They only have a couple pieces tonight.
Yeah, but it's still more than most categories tend to get. Out last Thursday, Nicola Bryant narrates this month's short trip. In it, local shops are being shut down by a new superstore, Odin. But is it just a corporate shenanigan or something more sinister? Doctor Who, Under Odin's Eye, is available now for £2.99 on download, only from Big Finish. Out today, Nev McIntosh, Katrin Stewart, and Dan Starkey reprise their roles from the Stephen Moffat era. Madame Vastra, Jenny, and Strax return in The Paternoster Gang, Heritage 1. 3 new audio adventures and a bonus disc are in the set.
I would like to point out that unlike other news articles, they didn't tell me what the adventures are called.
The Paternoster Gang Heritage 1 is available now, and Heritage 2, 3, and 4 are available for pre-order ahead of their release in October 2019, March 2020, and October 2020, all at £24.99 on CD or £19.99 on download, each from BigFinish.com.
And I think that's it for our news.
Yes, it is. And that means we move on to Geek Talk. And where we only have one thing, considering Thomas, who wanted to talk about 2 things.
One thing, and it's 5 years old.
One thing is 5 years old, but I just saw it very recently and released a review of it. So I'm covering very quickly Godzilla 2014. I guess borrowing again from our way of reviewing Doctor Who stuff, if I was to pick something that overall I really liked about Godzilla 2014, wow. What was that?
I sneezed.
Oh, okay.
That was a sneeze? I thought somebody had a seal in the room.
That or someone moved a really loud chair. But if I was to pick something overall from 2014 Godzilla that I really liked, that would be the visual effects. In particular, the Muto, I think they're called. And Godzilla
Muto,
were
Muto.
like Muto. Okay, and Godzilla were really well done. There are some parts of the Godzilla design that I'm not a huge fan of, in particular the feet, but they didn't really come into play very much, thankfully. They were usually clouded over by dirt and debris. But otherwise, we got a few really good up close shots of Godzilla in the movie, and they all held together pretty well. And that includes not only torso shots but also facial shots. There's even a scene where he literally leans in and actually starts sniffing in the general direction of one of the main characters during the movie. And that's the closest to actual interaction they get in the movie. But yeah, they very purposely picked like gloomy to dark days for all the shots except for I think the last one, and that's usually a sign of them not being totally sure about their visuals, but picking the best way to go about hiding any errors. But then they like I said, at the very end they had one sunny day released for Godzilla as he leaves and goes out into the water, and that shot was pretty good actually. Speaking of which, favorite scene, the ending scene I mentioned where it's a sunny day, there's the particular part of that is a whole bunch of humans literally surrounding Godzilla as he's apparently sleeping. At first, you're not entirely sure because he's very still. All of a sudden, as people are getting close, you see an eye open up and he kind of snorts. And after a little while longer, he finally just heads out to sea and leaves. I think the worst part about the movie is the humans were really Outside of like maybe 3 or 4 humans, the rest of them were cardboard cutouts, and the rest after that were just completely superfluous and pointless.
Needed more eye patch.
I'm not sure an eye patch would help unless you put it on one of the cardboard slats, in which case you might be able to give a backstory to that. I don't know. Like I said, a lot of the main characters are really cardboardish, including the guy who becomes the main character. Initially, his father's the main character, and he's a lot more interesting. And then they just kill him off in the first act.
I forgot his son was even a character. Oh, I forgot they were 2 separate characters.
Jeez.
I was thinking of them as one character.
No.
Yeah.
No, yeah, the older guy, I keep forgetting the actor's name. He's a popular actor now, still. But he did a great job, and it's a shame they killed him off in the first third of the movie. That was kind of a waste. That and the cardboard cutouts also being really dumb, despite being told by scientists and soldier people, "Hey, stop feeding the nukes to the monsters. They eat nuclear power." No, we're not gonna listen. We're gonna still use them anyways. There were moments I wanted to put my hands around my face and scream into my palms. There's some real brain logic in there that makes the human characters really unappealing.
What did you think of this version of the origin story?
Actually, I'm trying to think of what the origin technically was. Did they really? They very briefly covered that it appeared once before. That's all they really kind of covered for an origin.
I thought it was, from what I remember, it wasn't that far from the original.
The original actually was that he was a dinosaur that was killed on an island off of Japan during World War II and later got nuked. In this one, he's already the radiation-eating monster, and they try to nuke him, and he disappears for a while. Yeah, it's very different stories there.
I think the original went through a few fluctuations. Like the very first one, it wasn't clear other than that he was created by nuclear testing, and then they kind of, each writer put their own spin on it.
Yeah, outside of the fact that he was obviously a creature made by nuclear power, they didn't really know where the original Godzilla came from until I want to say the late 80s, early 90s, when they made King Ghidorah for the second
Whereas this
time.
one, I think the whole, the finding like the remains underground and the whole like eating nuclear power were kind of new takes.
Although the eating nuclear power is a new take, as opposed to just irradiating nuclear energy.
Yeah. Speaking of, while we're talking about this, I don't know if my phone is feeding Facebook information about what we're talking about or what, but I just happened to look at my phone and I see a headline that the new Godzilla is beat out Aladdin and Rocketman for top of the box office this weekend, I guess, or this week.
I've seen that he's already at the top for the weekend.
I've heard that the new Aladdin's not bad if you've never seen the original animated one.
What I've mainly seen people say is that the scenes written for this movie were good. The scenes written for Robin Williams and then reenacted were bad.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem. I'm sorry, you cannot copy Robin Williams. No one right now can copy Robin Williams.
So like every scene they wrote for Robin Williams and then just told Will Smith do this too are the ones that people are like, yeah, it sucked. But every scene that was written for Will Smith, people apparently liked.
Like the couple of scenes, like the one scene in particular in the trailer I remember was the one where he kind of blows at Aladdin and Aladdin starts sliding backwards. And
Not sure if I saw that trailer.
That was actually probably the one time any of those trailers got me to go, and that was about it. Oh, as the rest of it was just kind of like, okay. But yeah, back to Godzilla. Yeah, I heard that the new one is already at the top right now, but there's also worries from people who have been watching the numbers that unless the viewers keep up, this might slip faster than the last two, legendary giant monster movies. So the MonsterVerse is kind of on a teeter-totter right now as to whether or not it's going to continue after King Kong versus
started well.
Godzilla.
It started well. They just don't know if it's going to hold.
Yeah, it started well, but it's also had less numbers than Kong Skull Island or Godzilla 2014 for starting numbers. You know, they predicted it would be lower anyways.
Yeah, I want to say that's not a surprise. I mean, Ghidorah and Mothra have fewer fans than Solo Godzilla or King Kong, just because they're only known by people who were already fans of Godzilla. So
That varies. I knew a gal in college who was only a Mothra fan, but yeah.
Okay, so this week it's going to come up against Dark Phoenix, the final X-Men.
which I've already been seeing people hating it.
Oh yeah, I've been seeing that too already.
The Secret Life of Pets 2.
That might be close.
And then next week, Men in Black International.
I've been hearing mixed signals on that one too.
The new Shaft movie.
Shaft movie?
Yeah, you know, Shaft.
I've seen the ads for it. I haven't heard anything else
I
about it.
haven't even seen it. Yeah, I know who Shaft is. I'm like, where did this come from?
Yeah, I've only seen the ads within like the past month. I don't think it was very heavily advertised.
No, that was like a sleeper hit if it's going to be any kind of a hit.
Last time I think we were at the theater, I think we saw an ad for it.
Nope, I've seen Jack and Squat.
That's the thing too. I've been I pretty much made the decision that right now, if I'm going to make it through the summer, I should just anything I want to see in the theater, just wait for the Netflix version, because otherwise I'm going to be broke at least once.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat.
I've been holding back my money. Me and Mike. The reason why I finally saw 2014 Godzilla is because me and Mikey are trying to play catch up before we go see the new movie. We are planning to go see that in theaters and then do our review on that when we get there.
No, going to see Avengers Endgame just tapped me out. It was that was pretty much all of my movie money. And then after Shaft is Toy Story 4.
I've been hearing about that too. Of course, Toy Story 4, that's going to be a big one every time.
And then a couple weeks later is Spider-Man Far From Home.
That's another one I've been waiting on too. I should have enough money just in time for.
I wonder if Homecoming is on Netflix.
Last I saw it wasn't, but I haven't checked Netflix recently.
Yeah, I wouldn't be sure on that. But anyways, overall, I found I guess we should stop rambling, and I should finish the review really quickly. That I found Godzilla 2014. The monster parts were fantastic. There's a few good parts to the human parts when they actually did something, but a lot of the time was wasted with them doing nothing and at worst being stupid. So 2014 Godzilla is kind of a 50-50 for me. Maybe just slowly leading on to good, but it's definitely not great.
They're making a new Addams Family movie.
Yeah.
All 3D computer animated. Based on what looks like the original
comic art strip.
I feel like we had a 20-minute conversation about that, or was it off? Maybe it was off.
That might have been off camera, but
yeah.
If you did, it must have been that week I wasn't here.
No, it was with you. But this was it was probably before I took those 5 weeks off.
So it's been a while, but yeah, I've seen it. It looks like they still need to add textures, at least on the trailer I saw.
I'm sorry. I looked up 2019 in film just to see what was coming up.
Yes, and now we're getting rambling.
Yep.
I'm just we should. Ahead going, okay.
Although then again, we're both behind and ahead at the same time due to a late start.
No, we're still behind. We're just not as behind as we used to be.
Well, what I mean is, normally we'd be approaching like the 1 hour into the podcast mark by the time we were ready for the review. But we started almost an hour late, and therefore we're still late.
Yeah.
Yep. So
but because we started late, we probably should move on to the summary.
Late on time on late. Yeah, I have the stopwatch ready. I believe Tim, we said you're going to do it.
Didn't you do it? Oh wait, yeah. Okay, that's this week. Oh, cool. That means I'm scheduled for the doctor's wife.
Yeah,
nice.
Doctor's wife. Yay, good for Randy. Alright. Okay, so, are we ready?
Countdown.
3,
All right,
2.
starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Midnight takes place on the planet called Midnight. What a coincidence. Anyway, Donna is out lounging by a pool drinking her space Mai Tai when she gets a phone call, and it's the doctor saying, "Hey, Donna, you want to come on this really long train ride with me?" And Donna's like, "No, that would be exciting. I'd rather lounge by this pool drinking my space Mai Tai." And the doctor says, "Okay, but be careful. Don't stay out in the sun too long. The sunlight on this planet is extonic, and apparently that's very bad, which means that any living thing gets vaporized." And Donna is like, "Oh, you worry too much. I'm sitting underneath a glass ceiling that's 15 foot thick." And the doctor says, "Okay, so I'm gonna go see this sapphire waterfall. It'll take me 4 hours to get there and 4 hours to get back, and afterwards we'll go out to zero gravity restaurant with Bibs." And Donna says, "Okay, but be careful." And the doctor is like, "What could possibly go wrong?" Anyway, the doctor is on the train ride on the planet Midnight that's full of deadly light, like with some other people, but they find out that due to a rock slide, they've had to find a divergent path to the famous Sapphire Waterfall. So the doctor is talks with the people on the train to pass the time, because the doctor has cheekily used a sonic screwdriver to disrupt the annoying sound and entertainment system. And so he meets there's a professor and who is studying the history of Midnight, which is ironic because Midnight has no history because no living thing has ever lived on Midnight. Right? The professor's assistant, who is a bit put upon, a young couple traveling, a married couple traveling with their teenage son, and a woman who had just gotten off a bad breakup. Anyway, while they're talking, all of a sudden, the train stops for no reason. The doctor asks the driver and the mechanic what's wrong. The mechanic and driver says they don't know. But then weird stuff starts happening. There's a pounding on the walls, and they say, "What could be outside? Nothing could be outside because nothing can live on the planet Midnight." But then there's a huge explosion in a shadow, and the lights go out, and then the woman Sky starts repeating everything people and the doctor's like, "That's very annoying. That's very annoying. Annoying. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!" Like, I'm a huge ugly moron. Well, at least you have the guts to admit it. Haha. No, that doesn't happen. Anyway, the people start getting all paranoid and saying the woman is infected. It's after us. We have to kill her. We have to throw her off the train. And the doctor says, "You're not throwing anyone off this train." And eventually, the hostess of the train car starts saying, we have to get the uh whatever it is something has possessed this woman, because at first she was repeating everything she says, but then she's speaking in unison perfectly with them, is as if she knows what they're going to say. And after that, the doctor starts repeating everything, and they think they need to kill the doctor, but the hostess realizes that it's still the woman who's possessed, and she sacrifices herself by opening up the front door of the train and getting sucked out on the planet. And the doctor gives everyone a look of shame, guilt, and eventually the train is rescued. And Donna says, "What do you think was out there?" And the doctor says, "I have no idea." So the doctor is in a bit of a mood, but he says that he'll talk to the company that was planning to colonize Midnight and say they'll have to find somewhere else, to another planet, to build a dome city resort on, because there is something alive at Midnight, despite the fact that nothing can be alive on Midnight. Dun dun dun. The end.
You did it in 6 minutes, 2 seconds.
All right. So let's talk about what we liked about this episode. And Bill, you're first.
Of course I am. Well, I'm okay.
Hey, you were
so,
last week, so
Revenge.
So I am going to say Dee Dee. She was like the one person on the train other than David Tennant that I liked, and even though she didn't agree with him every time, but I was fine with that. But she actually, paid attention to her surroundings and made logical thoughts and didn't die. So yeah, that was nice.
okay. I was trying to remember which one was which.
Oh, okay. Dee Dee was the professor's assistant. The his student basically.
Mm-hmm. Who every time she would try to speak up, the professor would just
Yes.
By the way, you know who played the professor?
I do not.
That was David Troughton.
Oh.
So that was Patrick Troughton's son. One of them, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So there was I did feel like there was this little bit of something familiar about him, but I wasn't sure if that was just like an echo from having seen the episode years ago, or if I had seen him in something.
Mm. All right, Matt, how about you?
Thing I liked overall?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I'm just trying to think of like just a quick thing, and it's like, there's lots of things. What do you want to go with? I like that they managed to make a plausible companion light episode. A lot of the times it feels really arbitrary and forced. This one is kind of they're at a resort. Of course they're going to separate and do their own things. Even though the Doctor always wants to show cool stuff, they're not always going to want to follow him into the cool stuff. They want to do their own thing too if they can get a chance to. And it's a good way to just have a one-off episode in case the other actors aren't available or whatever.
All
So
right.
it's a pretty good setup.
All right. Tim?
I love the mystery of this episode and the way it deals with something that is completely new and unknown to the Doctor himself, which which I have to admit I think must be getting rarer and rarer as the Doctor goes along.
Feels
For
like
the
it some
Doctor
days.
to come across something that is completely unknown to him, that he doesn't have the answers for is a magical experience. And kudos to David Tennant for pulling this off so well. Well, his his uncertainty, and also, but just like the excitement of he has like in in his in his dealing with this unquantifiable phenomenon.
Is it bad you say phenomenon? I have the urge to go do 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 do.
I fight it every time.
The other day I found myself humming that, and I wasn't sure what I was humming until I got to the end and went, I'm charging my attack. And I was like, oh.
Okay. So I'm kind of on the same board with Tim, but what I really liked was the suspense. They really managed to drag the tension of this episode to a height where it broke into outright panic.
Yeah, they did a good job with the feeling of threat there.
Mm-hmm. And it just, it just kept ramping, and then you're just like, oh my God. It just, you felt it, and it was just, everything was on such a tight string. It was like, oh.
This episode could be used for a class on raising the stakes throughout the duration of an episode.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we talked about what we liked. How about what we disliked, Bill?
So I'll probably go with the less obvious one, considering the opinion I already gave earlier. But I'm going to go with the fact that they keep saying nothing can live on midnight. Nothing can live on midnight. The Doctor has met demigods, gods, celestial beings, any of whom would be like, oh, sci-fi magic light, whatever. I'm just going to walk across the surface. And he doesn't say anything. He doesn't give a doctor speech. He doesn't try to give credentials. He's just, oh yeah, I'll take them at their face value. At least outwardly.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Matt, how about you?
For a very low cast amount on a particular episode, we wasted one of our cast members on an angsty teen who just remains an angsty teen. Don't get me wrong, there are some ways to do that well, but in this case, it just felt like the kid was wishy-washy the entire time and wasted space.
He wasn't even really good comic relief.
No, he
No.
wasn't even good comic relief. I would forgive the angsty teen being angsty if he was good for something in the storyline, but they just kind of failed to do really anything with him.
If they had merged the angsty teen with Dee Dee's character, so it was the teen that was the most observant
Mm-hmm.
That
and
could
making
have
the
helped,
correct
yeah.
thing, but everybody just kept dismissing him because he was a kid.
That would also
Yeah.
be like every like YA show ever.
Yeah, that might have put him into the Wesley territory. And you never want to go
Mhm.
full Wesley.
Well, I don't mean
Never
like
go full
full
Wesley.
like to that extent, but like I've read my fair share of young adult novels, and that character is pretty much the one you're describing. That's the protagonist of every one of them.
Yeah.
Harry Potter, for instance.
No. Harry Potter
no,
does
no.
shit wrong quite frequently.
Mm-hmm.
More like oh, my brain's hemorrhaging names now. I can't think of it. Frel. Earthshock.
Adric?
Adric. Never go full Adric.
I was
I
going
don't
to say,
know.
yeah, Adric is one who's definitely been accused of going full
Yeah.
Wesley. So
It would have been a
before
trope.
Wesley,
It would have been a trope or an archetype, but at least would have not made the character useless.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
If nothing else, make him at least make him a character that either has something to do for either minor relief in the story, or have him be hyper observant, like some kids like that tend to be.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of he
Okay.
just moans and sits back and gets shouted at to do things.
All right, Tim.
Okay. I did not like anyone on this train who was not the Doctor.
Mhm.
They all acted in the most self-centered, ignorant, aggravating ways, and at my only console was at least I could sympathize with the Doctor, who it at times it felt was as frustrated with them as I was, because it seemed that no matter what happened, the people had a knack for inferring from them just what taking what they saw and just twisting it to bolster their own preconceived notions of what was going on, rather than being open minded. And it seemed that the more the Doctor tried to get these people to stop and think, the more they just took that as evidence that something was evil, and just and like the questions like, "What's your name? Who are you doing there? What are you doing there?" Like, "You were talking about the woman. That must mean this." It's like, and the and my and it was making my brain hurt listening to these people go on and on about like asking questions that no one in a Doctor Who episode should ask, like, "What's your name? You're lying. My name is John Smith." You're like, "Okay." It's like, "No, like, just stop, please." So that's what I didn't like.
Mm. Well, I agree with you in part. I mean, the reason that was doing that is they were basically trying to mimic the mob mentality
Mhm.
that people do in a crisis. At the same time, I would like to spin off to my own dislike on this, because I agree with Tim. I didn't like any of the characters because they were too flat and bland. I would have loved to have a balance of good and bad people,
Mhm.
and you didn't really get a balance. You just got blah.
One thing I hate is when a horror movie that involves a lot of characters dying gives you an entirely unlikable cast, and this episode was very close to that.
Yeah, it did get borderline with quite a few of them,
Mhm.
even though there were some standouts, at least at moments.
You had the combination of the professor who is both set in his ways and doesn't take anyone else's opinion, and the person who treats customer service workers as complete trash and assumes that they have godlike powers. I really wanted that guy to die.
Oh, by the way, sorry I'm late.
Oh, there's a Thomas.
Oh, Thomas.
He has arrived.
I overslept because I forgot to put my alarm on.
Ah, well,
Well,
we did start nearly an hour late, so you
you
are.
meant,
It's not the ending just yet.
yeah, we're having technical problems tonight, so we're
Ah.
basically audio only because our video portion of our show has failed. Um. Anyway, since you're here, do you want to quick give us what you liked and disliked about this episode? Assuming you did see the episode.
Oh yeah. Thankfully, I saw it.
Yeah, he
Once, and I remember it.
yeah.
I remember it well enough to not have to rewatch it. As far as liked overall, I would just say the scale, even though that's probably something someone did say.
No.
Just like them being trapped in this one confined space was really cool, and something that I'm surprised Doctor Who doesn't do only occasionally, but more often, because that would be a nice budget saver. And I guess as far as dislikes goes, I I feel like anything I have probably would have been taken anyway, and I kind of agree with what Tim said because I came in as he was giving his. Um, let's see if I can think of actually something.
I mentioned the teenager because he particularly bothered me, but yeah, a lot of them have issues.
And I guess like if I wanted to pin down a specific person instead of just like the people in general, the fact that the professor just keeps belittling the crap out of that woman is like, what the fuck, dude? Like, chill out.
Hmm.
Why the hell is he like? Why the hell is she working for him if all
I
he's
hate
doing is like treating her?
I hate to say this, but as a former university employee, that's pretty much the way the professors treat their undergrads.
And so,
Mm.
I follow a lot of academics on Twitter, and I'm very thankful that nobody in my department has acted that way, at least not that I've seen. But it's definitely not an uncommon experience, and unfortunately, you kind of rely on people like that to give you the boost to achieve your own academic independence.
Yes.
Well, as much as you're ever academically independent, unless you're independently wealthy.
And they don't just treat their undergrads like that; they treat everybody like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've had to do tech support for these people.
Mm-hmm.
And just because you have a PhD in English Lit does not mean you know more than the person you're talking to on the phone trying to fix your computer.
I would hope not if they're asking for help.
But yet they act like it.
Mm.
ER.
It was one of my greatest beefs while working the university help desk was when I'd get these professors that have a degree in something not related to computers.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, have you tried this? It's like, no, I won't try that. That's silly. That would never work. It's like,
That was
sir,
like
Alrighty.
what was the professor? Was he like a geologist or an astronomist or something?
He was something like a geologist, I think.
Yeah, and then someone referred to him as the expert on the planet, like when it came to like the biology of the planet. I'm like, he is nowhere remotely an expert in that. Don't bring him into this.
Why ask about the biology of the planet? Because there's literally no biology. That's why he's a more or less.
That's his belief, but he clearly is wrong.
That's why he's more or less an architect, because there's like nothing that, at least nothing normal that can live on that planet that we're aware of. But there's obviously something, according to this episode.
Mm. Because it stings a bit more because it's friggin' Patrick Troughton's son playing that character.
I pointed that out earlier.
Yeah, so it's like, damn it, why can't you make the guy played by the second Doctor's son like a better character?
He's played a lot of roles in Doctor Who, so I think it was just the line of, here, let's let you come in and we'll have you play something. Anyway, I think that means we're up to favorite scene.
Yep.
And Bill, you're first.
I think I'm going to go with the scene where, and I'm trying to remember exactly how it played out, but as I was rewatching it, I noticed this one scene where Dee Dee's trying to talk and the professor is shutting her down, and the hostess, she kind of like makes eye contact with Dee Dee. She like recognizes that, this is a woman being silenced by her boss, which, most women of color experience from many different directions. And I forget what exactly it was about, but she kind of speaks up and supports Dee Dee's argument to help it break through the mob mentality. And I kind of appreciated that scene.
There's a couple of moments like that. I think later on when they were trying to figure out the whole voice thing in particular happened too.
All right, Matt.
Favorite scene? We got like 5 different audio-visual things going on at the same time, and everyone's picking up earbuds for a reason. Enter Doctor. Slowly raises a sonic. Slowly everything shuts down. Oh, look at that. We're going to have to talk.
And then somebody complained.
And that's like the stupid. Well, no, it was the air stewardess lady.
No, I mean the guy, the father.
Well, no,
the father
his move
guy.
was like, well, now what are we going to do? I don't know how you'd be able to understand anything through all that chaos.
Yeah.
I mean, are we
Well,
supposed to?
I think people just get the little earbud things to either channel to what they want to pay attention to, or to just channel out from everything around them. But now they don't have to channel out everything, so it's like, oh, what do we do now?
What bothered me about that scene is that they hadn't developed the ability to put the little TVs in front of the seats in front of you, like they have on like modern airlines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you
Shoot, they
could-
had like a '90s projector. They
Yeah.
that was so backward.
Yep. I'm just like, seriously?
Shuttle technology, go backwards to the 90s.
All right. Tim.
I did like that scene, that like where it cuts into the middle of the couple telling the story, and the man is saying, "Where's the pool?" And he says to me, "The pool is abstract." And apparently, this is hilarious, but it's left to my imagination, and it's hilarious in my imagination too. Hello?
Yeah, we're still here.
All right. I heard someone go, "Ah!"
Oh, that was. I accidentally coughed before I could
No,
mute
yeah, it's
myself.
not someone saying anything. It was just a cough. Yeah.
Okay. But
Everybody on here sick.
like I enjoy that scene because it the doctor and the other people getting along swimmingly, which is great because I like to hold on to that scene.
Not these people aren't necessarily 100% always slime. Yeah.
All right. Thomas?
Thankfully mine wasn't taken, so I'm just gonna go with a bit where it's everything's over and done with. They've been clearly sitting in silence for a while, and then the doctor just something occurs to him, and he's just like, "The stewardess. Did anyone actually know her name?" Because it's like, damn, you suddenly realize. And I remembered that line from previous times I've seen this episode, so I was actually making sure. And she does not have a name tag, so you can't
Yeah, she
even
does
get a
not have a
name
name
from
tag.
that. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, her name just never comes up because they're not treating her like a person anyway. And then yeah, it's like,
Well, she also
oh
comes off
shit,
as
we
very
don't need.
mechanical a lot of the time, anyways. She just
Mm,
keeps using like the same phrases over and over again. It's like, oof.
yeah, like we never find out a name, and like even the doctor realizes that, oh shit, even I didn't ask for.
Yet, though checking
God.
IMDb, she is just named hostess.
Mm.
Where's the filling? Oh.
All right. Are we up to me now?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think my favorite scene is the one where the doctor's up front with the captain and the mechanic. And they had looked outside and they'd see, saw the beautiful thing. And as they're just closing the window, it's like, did you see that? I've looked at that scene 1,000 times for anything moving. I can't tell.
Yeah, I can't tell for sure because there's also actually a lot of light moving naturally through it.
Mm-hmm. But it just puts that. That's just the start of the tension ball.
It's that moment where you catch something out of the corner of your eye and then no one else can quite catch it.
Yeah.
Because I legit was watching it this time and almost thought I saw it, but then I realized, oh no, it's a sparkle changing. Dang. No, I don't see it. Or was it a sparkle changing? I don't know.
All right. So least favorite scene, and Bill.
So least favorite, I'm sure I'm going to have at least one person disagree with me on this. But I was not a fan of the opening, especially the first time I watched it. I was so confused. I thought I had missed an episode. Why is Donna by herself? Why is she telling the doctor she doesn't want to go on adventures? I just feel like it wasn't set up in a way that was clear enough that you could watch it and really just understand where they were and what was happening.
I don't know. I've
I
gotten
think
used
that's
to
a
them
you thing.
doing. Yeah, I've gotten used to them doing the kind of the in media res bit. So,
But it wasn't even that it was in media res. Like if they started off, they were separate. The doctor Donna telling the doctor she didn't want to go on an adventure. I was like, are they not traveling together anymore? Like, what the hell is going on? Like, why is
They
Donna not traveling with the doctor anymore?
they
And
pretty
it's
clearly explain it right there. They're at like a getaway thing,
Yeah.
and she
the
wants
Which
to
I
relax
close
guess
for a change.
the closest that it comes to is that she says she's sunbathing and he points out that they're on an alien planet. But before then, I never saw any mention either time of anything like that.
Yeah. I feel like this is one of those
Mm.
instances where watching this episode in isolation probably makes that an issue, whereas
Well, no,
if
it
you
was
take into account that this comes after immediately after Silence in the Library, Forest of the Dead, you could argue that she's
But-
like, dude, I'm just done. I want
but
to
see
just chill out.
that's the thing. Like watching it in isolation now, especially now that I've seen a lot more Doctor Who, it makes a little more sense. But as a relatively new fan, when I was just binging Doctor Who, seeing this immediately following an episode with no, they didn't say anything. Oh, we're going to go to a resort. They didn't like say, okay, we're here, we're going to do our own thing. It just immediately she's on her own and telling him she doesn't want to go on adventures. I'm like, what did I miss?
Yeah,
Nothing.
it's one of those cases
She-
where
she
this
wants
is
a break.
like one of the this is one of the few companion light episodes, which is kind of funny because it's immediately followed by a Doctor Light episode.
Yeah,
mhm.
probably one of the best Doctor Light episodes. Anyway,
All right. Oh, that's your opinion. You're welcome to it, Matt.
least favorite scene. I'd have to go with the part where whatever it is in Miss Sky just starts going on about how I'm free and it's in him now, and everyone just starts eating it so easily, except for like maybe two characters who still are kind of like, I'm not so sure. It's just I don't know if maybe that's a thing with the alien. We don't know for sure, but and it also could be just a thing of them being panicky under pressure too. But it just kind of,
Yeah,
it felt like
the
it skipped a few
idea.
logic buttons.
Yeah, the idea, which is kind of funny because the entity working through that woman basically tells them, yeah, you're being emotionally manipulated. And like they don't, stop and
Immediately they
think,
don't
oh
question,
shit.
and how do we know
Yeah.
then it's not you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Tim.
When they're all up in the doctor's grill, and the professor says, "How do you know what to do?" And the doctor says, "Because I'm clever." And then they take that as like, well, what does that make us then? Is like, and I'm like, that's not what the doctor meant. It's like, don't you're taking everything the wrong way. That was the most heinous example of that, I think.
I remember the first time I watched that scene, I was like, why is the doctor being so arrogant and just inflaming them? But rewatching it, I realized like he's just as stressed out as they are, and he was probably like fumbling for an answer with everyone screaming in their ear, and that was just the best he could come up with in 5 seconds or less.
And the fact that
Yeah.
they were asking questions that he couldn't answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I always found that kind of funny that we're so used to like the speech that they end up sort of satirizing in the 50th anniversary, where he's just like would go on about, I'm the Doctor, I am all this, I'm a Time Lord, blah. And this is the one time where you almost expect they would have gone for that, but he doesn't even mention that he's a Time Lord at all.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when they were like, well, what makes you so special that you can't be possessed, that it would be a bad thing? You'd be like, oh, now the music's going to play, and
Mm-hmm.
but no.
It's kind of weird he doesn't. It's, it's because it's like that would have been the moment where it's like that would have been shutting everybody up and let's go to
Mhm.
work. But
Yeah.
I don't, it's like he has no confidence.
Mm.
It's kind of weird too because it seems like, despite what the stewardess seems to say, like the multiforms or whatever, etc. list, but it seems like here there's nothing but humans, and it's like, do they or do they not know about aliens?
Mm.
You'd think as far away from Earth as they should be right about now that they would know about aliens, but
Mm.
at the same time,
And of course, you would almost think that, I guess it depends on how the show would handle the Doctor in general, because if these are supposed to be humans who are from Earth, but obviously this is like far flung future, like would the Doctor still be notice, like, would anyone still remember him this far ahead? Because he's never gone to this far ahead kind of Earth, probably. But even then, yeah, it's like honestly, it would have even been funny because they could have done that, like, I'm a Time Lord, and then they could have got up him for that. It's like, well, what the hell's a Time Lord then? At least, or something like that. It's just like, it's so funny that he has, like, they set up the opportunity for it, but he just never bothers to bring that up, and instead just says that he's clever and stuff. And it's like, okay, you could have just said you're a Time Lord and you're beyond all this other shit. So,
hmm.
All right. So whose was that?
That was Tim's, but I also kind of piggybacked onto it because I had a similar
Okay.
thing. So yeah.
All right. So let's see.
So do you?
Do I have a least favorite scene? Honestly, I don't think so. Because most of this episode, this episode is one of the ones that, internet polls and stuff says is like the best episode, but it's kind of it kind of goes blah to me. So I don't think I have a least favorite because the rest of it all kind of goes equally into just kind of eh. So let's go ahead and go on to final thoughts. Bill.
Okay. So I'm not as big of a fan of this episode. I do really like how they managed to keep raising the stakes and keep the tension and suspense very well. And specifically in terms of looking at it through the point of view of the Doctor, it's really great. But I feel like in some ways, I mentioned I'm not a huge fan of the setup and especially the characters. I definitely think they could have done a lot different with that. I'm actually seeing on TARDIS that this was kind of written really quickly because RTD did not like the script that was going to be filmed in its place, which may be a reason for some of the things I had issue with, or maybe not. I still think it's an above average episode, but I would not be surprised if I end up being a low ball score here, just because there's so many things that just annoy me about it. And that's all for me.
All right, Matt.
A lot of this episode is really good. I still don't get the whole complaint about the setup. I felt it was fine. The plot is really well done, and I like the fact that it's essentially The Thing without as much body horror, but it hits on some of the same notes about people in panic and stuff of that nature.
And isolation.
And isolation, definitely about isolation, in a very shorthand. But I will agree also at the same time that the number one flaw of this one seems to be that we have a few characters in particular that just fall flat and they kind of pull some of the party with them. That being said, both Tennant and the woman who played Mrs. Sky, Leslie Sharp, I have the IMDb open right now. Both of them did really good jobs playing off of one another for the hero and villain of this particular story.
All right. Is that it, Matt?
That's pretty much it.
Tim?
Oh boy. Okay. I think this episode has a good performance by David Tennant. Again, one of his best, as people say. It has a it is a promising beginning. The plot is good. It is an intriguing concept. I love the idea, but halfway through this episode, it just becomes an exercise in absolute frustration for me. And it doesn't let up until mercifully the episode ends. And I think that's just more of a personal viewpoint. Is like, I'm not a big fan of these Lord of the Flies type things where a group of people get cut off from civilization and they immediately turn on each other rather than working together to overcome any obstacles, and just is like,
I will.
instead they're just digging the hole further in for themselves
I will
with
say
no way.
that as I mentioned the thing earlier, the thing did better.
Yes, the thing did do it better. It's like, it's very hard. I admit that I think it's hard to pull that kind of story off.
Mhm.
So, Bill, I don't think you're going to be a low ball scorer on this episode either.
Okay.
We'll see.
All right. Thomas?
The one thing I will give this episode over a lot of episodes is I didn't I watched it when I was recording it so you guys could watch it, and I haven't watched it since, and I almost slept through the podcast. And yet, I can still remember most of what happened. And to me, that shows that it actually had me engaged the entire time. Whereas there are episodes I will watch right before we start the podcast, and I'll be like, shit, what happened in this episode? um, and so, as far as, it's not perfect. There are a lot of issues, and they lean a bit too far into the um the mob mentality thing without the doctor even realizing, oh wait, they're just being manipulated by this thing, maybe I should, and by then it's probably a bit too late, but still, it's just there was still bits that got me. I actually remember getting slightly emotional when the stewardess sacrificed herself, even though we don't know much about her or whatever, because I think it's just the poignancy of the person you don't pay attention to being the one who goes, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna sort this out and save everyone. Um, just something about that hit me. Um, and yeah, I would honestly say, and going by going by other opinions, I might be one of the few people on the podcast to say this, but I honestly think this is one of the better episodes of New Who. Might be one of the best episodes of New Who, as far as I'm concerned. I would have this as required viewing. Hell, I would say this would actually be a good starting point for people because this is so void of anything else that's really going on in this series. Even though there's the reference to the Lost Moon of Poosh, which is more so something for later than anything that's happened prior. Yeah, I would definitely say that people should check this one out.
Okay, I think you may be standing alone on that. Okay, so This, like I mentioned, this comes off in many internet polls as one of the best episodes of Series 4, if not the entire Tennant run. Um, of looking at it myself, I don't think it's that good, but I think it's definitely on the good side.
Mm-hmm.
It has an amazing tension to it that runs throughout all the appropriate portions of the episode. It is basically a bottle episode, virtually. New characters, but they don't have to do multiple sets or anything. They're all basically on this bus. Bill, we're getting sound from you. Thank you.
Oh, not sure why.
Yeah, you go quiet for too long and you get background static.
Anyway,
Starts picking up in your background noise. Anyway, yep.
the tension's good. The acting is really good. The problem, really, where the episode has the problem is the characterizations.
Mhm.
A lot of the characters involved are very bland or uninteresting. And while they were going for, your typical people, if you're ever in a crowd of people on a bus, there's a variety of people. Interesting, uninteresting, good, assholes. There's always going to be a random sampling. Here, it just kind of felt like they went for as unappealing or as basically as bland as they could until the point that they turned into a panic mob,
Mm-hmm.
in which case they started to show off all the worst traits humanity can do.
Yep.
And I would have liked to seen more of good people making bad decisions in a panic rather than just having it be bland people. And for that, it loses some points in my case. But especially for an episode that has what's functionally an invisible monster, you never really get to see what the alien is just after it's possessed somebody. And really, that's about it. It's interesting, but I don't think it's the best.
No.
And that's it. Let's go to ratings.
Okay. 3.5.
3.5 from Bill. All right. Matt. I believe you were next.
I
Yes.
believe I'm going with a 4.
4. Tim.
I'm going to give this a 3.
Ouch.
Just so Bill can't say he was the lowballer. Thomas.
Well, I guess I have to take Tim's place and be the optimist and give this a 5.
Ooh.
And I am
Quite a
going to
range
agree
today.
with Matt and give this a 4. Just the annoyance of those characters just being so bland and then so bad that it just makes you not care.
Almost a bell curve. We just need someone in here that thinks it's worth a 4.5.
Randy, you ruined the bell curve.
I don't care. And that means between everybody, this actually is the lowest rated episode of this season.
Ooh.
For about 2 more weeks.
With a 3.9. Yeah, until we get into for 2 weeks. That's right. Next week. Yeah, boy.
What's in 2 more weeks?
That next week is the final episode of
you're
good.
meaning
The
as
good.
in we're going to start doing the bad episodes, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So in 2 weeks we move on to the bad of the good, bad, and ugly.
We start moving into the basement crawlers.
The good, the bad, and the fugly.
That's right, because we're getting to the point where we've reviewed everything and therefore can't get individual episodes. All right. So, my rating, verse, and with a 3.9,
It's 152.
152 out of 296. I just found it myself. It is on par with a lot of 3.9s, including Knock Knock, The Deadly Assassin, The Brain of Morbius, Colony in Space, Warrior's Gate, Into the Dalek, Kerblam, Monster of Peladon, etc. It is better than Keeper of Traken, Boomtown, Ghostlight, Enemy of the World, Girl in the Fireplace, End of the World, etc. But not as good as A Good Man Goes to War, Attack of the Cybermen, Runaway Bride, Vengeance on Varos, Heaven Sent, Terminus, etc. Yeah, we're getting in that area where there's just a ton of them.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, 3.9, 152 out of 296. That's all we have to say about Midnight.
All right. So, which one of us do you agree with at home? Don't forget to comment on YouTube below. Tell us who's right, who's wrong, or if we're all wrong. And like or dislike the video if you feel that way. Don't forget to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, or follow us on Twitch. And you can also follow us at facebook.com/unearthlypodcast or twitter.com/unearthlypod.
All right.
Also, really quick, I would mention that you can leave messages on VODs on Twitch, and Bill will get those messages.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes, I've had people do that.
All right. So next week, we finish The Good and move into Matt Smith's second season. It is one of my personal favorite episodes of all time. It's The Doctor's Wife, written by Neil Gaiman, starring Matt Smith as the Doctor, Karen Gillan as Amy Pond, and Arthur Darvill as Rory Williams.
You can't spoil them as to whether you'll like it a week ahead of time.
Oh, I can. Because I made this list.
Not like you've never talked about this episode on the podcast
Not
before.
like we haven't talked about it
this
100 times
episode.
before and been waiting.
I am finally happy we are going to review this episode. Because I've wanted to for years. Excuse me.
Don't die.
See you next week. I'm not dying. I've just been talking so much my throat is dry and it's causing me to cough.
Get a glass of water. And good night, everybody.
Good night.